Ladies and gentlemen, have you ever felt lost, like you were walking through a fog, unsure of your direction, unsure of your purpose? We've all been there, standing at a crossroads, overwhelmed by choices, by doubts, by the weight of the world pressing down on our shoulders. In those moments, we yearn for one thing above all else: clarity. Clarity is the compass that guides us. Clarity is the fuel that powers our actions. Without it, we're paralyzed, but with it, we are unstoppable. Now, let me ask you something. When was the last time you stopped and said, God, give me clarity? When was the last time you humbled yourself, dropped the facade of control, and asked for guidance, not from the noise of the world, but from the quiet wisdom of the divine? You see, clarity doesn't come from endlessly spinning your wheels. It doesn't come from scrolling through social media hoping for answers. It doesn't come from comparing yourself to others. Clarity comes when you connect to something greater than yourself. But here's the catch. Clarity isn't given to the passive. It's not handed out like candy at Halloween. No, clarity is reserved for those who are ready to listen, ready to act, and ready to let go of what's holding them back. If you want clarity, you must ask yourself 3 powerful questions. What am I truly seeking? Not what society says you should want, not what your family or friends expect of you, but what you, deep in your soul, are called to pursue. What am I willing to release? Clarity requires space. You can't fill your life with new possibilities if you're clinging to old doubts, toxic relationships, or limiting beliefs. What will you let go of today to make room for tomorrow? What action will I take now? Clarity without action is just a dream. You don't need to have it all figured out, none of us do, but you do need to take the first step, no matter how small. And here's the truth you need to hear today. God will meet you in that space. When you quiet the noise, when you let go of the fear, and when you boldly say, God, give me clarity, you create an opening for divine guidance to flood into your life. You weren't put here to stumble around in confusion. You weren't created to live in doubt. You were made to shine, to lead, to serve, and to love. But to do that, you must first see the path ahead. So today, I challenge you. Don't just listen to these words, live them. Go to a quiet place, ask for clarity, and commit to your next step. And when you do, I promise you'll feel something shift. Maybe it'll be a whisper, maybe a nudge, or maybe a bold and undeniable calling. But it will come. And when it does, don't hesitate, act. Because clarity is not just a gift, it's a responsibility. Once you have it, you're called to use it to make this world brighter, better, and more beautiful. So stand tall, speak boldly, live with purpose, and when you ask for clarity, know that it's already on its way. Clarity comes when you connect to something greater than yourself. In the chaos of life, people often seek answers in external sources, hoping that the world around them will provide the guidance they desperately crave. They look to books, mentors, social media, and even fleeting moments of inspiration to tell them what they should do next. But real clarity, the kind that shifts the course of your life, does not come from external noise. It comes from within, from that deep and undeniable connection to something far greater than yourself. The problem most people face is that they are too consumed by distractions to hear the answers that are already present. They wake up, check their phones, dive into their to-do list, respond to messages, and allow their schedules to dictate their days. Their minds are filled with obligations, opinions, and comparisons, drowning out the very guidance they seek. They confuse movement with progress, thinking that being busy is the same as being clear. But the truth is, clarity does not come from endless activity. It comes from alignment. Alignment happens when you tap into a source of wisdom beyond your own limited understanding. Some call it God, others call it the universe, intuition, or higher consciousness. Whatever name you give it, the principle remains the same. You are not meant to navigate this life alone. There is a force, a presence, a divine intelligence that is always speaking, always guiding, always leading you toward your highest potential. But you must be willing to tune in. When you disconnect from this higher source, life feels heavy. Everything seems confusing, overwhelming, and uncertain. You second guess yourself. You hesitate. You fall into patterns of fear and doubt. You become reactive instead of proactive, making decisions based on circumstances instead of vision. And the longer you stay in that space, the more lost you feel. But the moment you reconnect, the moment you surrender the illusion of control and allow yourself to be led, everything changes. The fog lifts. The path becomes clear. The right doors begin to open and the wrong ones close without resistance. People often make the mistake of thinking clarity is something they have to chase, as if it's hiding somewhere, waiting to be found. But clarity is not about searching, it's about receiving. It's about quieting the noise, removing the distractions, and making space for what's already within you. You don't need more information. You don't need more validation. You don't need the opinions of others telling you what's best for you. What you need is connection. That connection is built through stillness, through prayer, through reflection, through moments of solitude where you allow yourself to listen instead of always speaking. It's in those moments that the most powerful realizations come. Have you ever noticed that your greatest ideas don't come when you're rushing or forcing things, but when you're relaxed? Maybe in the shower, on a quiet walk, or in the middle of the night when the world is silent. That's not a coincidence. That's what happens when your mind stops overanalyzing and finally opens up to divine wisdom. Clarity does not come through force. It comes through surrender. It's about trusting that you don't have to figure everything out on your own. It's about believing that there is a plan unfolding, even when you can't see it. It's about recognizing that the answers you seek are already available, but they require you to be still long enough to receive them. The challenge is that most people resist stillness. They fear it. They equate silence with discomfort because in silence they must face themselves. They must confront their fears, their insecurities, their limiting beliefs. But what they fail to realize is that on the other side of that discomfort is clarity, freedom, and purpose. Clarity is not something you manufacture, it's something you allow. When you stop forcing, stop pushing, stop trying to control every outcome, you create space for clarity to flow naturally. Think about a body of water. When it's agitated, when it's disturbed, it becomes murky. You can't see anything beneath the surface, but when it's calm, when it's still, everything becomes clear. That's how your mind works. That's how your soul receives guidance. The most successful, fulfilled, purpose-driven individuals are those who have learned to access this clarity on demand. They don't rely solely on logic and strategy. They listen to intuition, to divine nudges, to that inner voice that whispers the next step. They don't need to have the entire roadmap in front of them. They just need to trust that as long as they stay connected to something greater than themselves, they will always be guided to where they need to be. This connection transforms decision-making. It eliminates doubt. It removes the stress of trying to figure everything out alone. Because when you are aligned, you no longer operate from fear, lack, or uncertainty. You operate from faith, abundance, and confidence. You stop second-guessing yourself because you trust that you are being led. You stop seeking permission because you already know the answer. You stop hesitating because you understand that clarity isn't about knowing every detail. It's about taking the next step with certainty. Most people want clarity before they take action. But the truth is, clarity often comes after action. The moment you start moving in alignment with that higher calling, the path unfolds in ways you never could have planned. Doors open, connections are made, opportunities arise, and suddenly things that once seemed impossible become inevitable. This is why faith is such a critical part of clarity. You cannot wait until you have all the answers before you begin. You must trust that as you move forward, the guidance you need will continue to appear. It's like driving at night with headlights. You may not be able to see the entire road ahead, but as long as you keep driving, the next few feet are always illuminated. Clarity is not a one-time event. It's a practice. It's something you cultivate daily by staying connected to that higher source. It's a habit of tuning in, listening, and acting in alignment with what you receive. It's about trusting the process, even when things don't make sense in the moment. Most people are living in confusion, not because they lack answers, but because they lack connection. They are trying to solve spiritual problems with logical solutions. They are looking for clarity in places that were never designed to provide it. True clarity doesn't come from the outside, it comes from within. And the only way to access it is by connecting to the source that placed it inside of you in the first place. You must release old doubts, fears, and limitations to make space for clarity. Most people walk through life carrying weight they don't even realize they're holding. They wonder why they feel stuck, why they can't seem to find direction, why everything feels uncertain. What they don't see is that their minds and hearts are cluttered with doubts, fears, and limitations that have built up over time. These invisible barriers create noise, making it nearly impossible to hear the guidance that's already there. They hold on to beliefs that were never theirs to begin with. Ideas planted by society, family, past experiences, and even their own self-doubt. They replay old failures, thinking that because something didn't work before, it won't work now. They let fear of the unknown keep them from stepping into the future they were meant for. Doubt is one of the biggest obstacles to clarity. It seeps into the mind and creates hesitation, making people question themselves at every turn. They wonder if they're making the right decision, if they're good enough, if they're capable. They wait for absolute certainty before taking action, not realizing that clarity comes from movement, not from overthinking. The mind is like a muscle. If it's constantly trained to question and second guess, it becomes a habit. That habit becomes a pattern, and that pattern shapes their reality. They begin to believe that uncertainty is their natural state, when in reality it's simply a byproduct of holding on to doubt. Fear is another force that keeps people trapped. Fear of failure, fear of judgment, fear of stepping outside of comfort zones. The mind is wired to protect, to seek safety, to avoid risk. But in that protection, it also blocks progress. Fear convinces people to stay where they are, even when they know deep down that they're meant for more. It whispers worst-case scenarios, magnifies risks, and minimizes potential rewards. The problem is that most people don't recognize fear for what it is. They mistake it for logic, for caution, for wisdom. They rationalize their hesitation instead of confronting it. But the truth is, fear only has power when it goes unchallenged. The moment it is faced head-on, it begins to lose its grip. Limiting beliefs are the silent killers of clarity. These are the deeply ingrained thoughts that dictate what a person believes is possible. They sound like facts, but they are nothing more than stories. Stories told by past experiences, by upbringing, by the environment someone grew up in. Some people believe they're not smart enough, not talented enough, not lucky enough. They believe success is for others, that they don't have what it takes, that they are destined to struggle. These beliefs become the lens through which they see the world, and because the mind always seeks to confirm what it believes, they keep finding evidence to support these limitations. They don't see opportunities because their beliefs tell them opportunities aren't for them. They don't take risks because their beliefs tell them risks lead to failure. They stay in the same cycles, the same patterns, the same struggles, never realizing that the only thing standing in their way is the belief that they can't move forward. Letting go of doubts, fears, and limitations is not easy, but it is necessary. The first step is awareness, recognizing what is holding them back. Most people don't even realize they are carrying these burdens. They think it's just the way life is, just the way they are. But when they take a step back and examine their thoughts, they begin to see the patterns. They begin to notice the doubts that creep in before every big decision. They begin to hear the fear that stops them from taking action. They begin to recognize the beliefs that have been running their lives without their permission. Once they are aware, they must make a choice. Hold on to these limitations or release them. This is where most people struggle. They want clarity, but they don't want to let go of what's comfortable. Doubt, fear, and limitations may be painful, but they are familiar. There is a strange sense of safety in staying the same, even when it means staying stuck. But clarity requires space. It cannot exist in a mind that is cluttered with hesitation and uncertainty. Just like a cup must be emptied before it can be filled, the mind must be cleared of old limitations before it can receive new direction. Releasing these obstacles is not about ignoring them or pretending they don't exist. It's about facing them, questioning them, and dismantling them one by one. Doubt must be replaced with belief. Fear must be replaced with courage. Limiting beliefs must be replaced with new, empowering truths. This doesn't happen overnight. It's a process, a daily practice of choosing to let go. It's catching the thought that says, I'm not good enough, and replacing it with, I am capable. It's noticing the fear that says, what if I fail? And responding with, what if I succeed? It's recognizing the hesitation that says, I'm not ready, and pushing forward anyway. The moment someone begins to release these limitations, they start to feel lighter. They begin to see possibilities where they once saw roadblocks. They begin to take action without the constant weight of self-doubt. Clarity starts to emerge not because they found it, but because they made room for it. They realized that the answers were always there, waiting beneath the layers of fear and hesitation. They just needed to clear the space to see them. People often search for clarity in external sources, thinking they need more information, more advice, more certainty. But clarity is not about adding more. It's about removing what no longer serves them. It's about clearing out the mental clutter, the emotional baggage, the outdated beliefs. It's about creating space for wisdom, intuition, and divine guidance to flow freely. The less noise there is, the easier it is to hear the truth. This is why stillness is so powerful. In stillness, the mind has a chance to reset, to recalibrate, to release what it has been holding on to. This is why people often experience their greatest moments of clarity after meditation, after prayer, after deep reflection. It's in those moments when the world is quiet and the distractions are gone that they can truly see. Releasing doubts, fears, and limitations does not mean they will never appear again. They will. But the difference is in how they are handled. Instead of letting them control decisions, they are acknowledged and then dismissed. Instead of allowing them to dictate actions, they are overridden by confidence and faith. Instead of believing them to be truth, they are seen for what they really are: illusions, shadows of the past, stories that no longer serve a purpose. The most successful, fulfilled, and purpose-driven individuals have mastered this process. They don't allow doubt to stop them. They don't allow fear to control them. They don't allow limitations to define them. They have trained their minds to release what no longer serves them, to create space for clarity, and to trust that when they move forward with courage, the path will always be revealed. Clarity without action is just a dream. Take the first step now. Many people spend their lives waiting for the perfect moment. They believe that once they have all the answers, once the timing is right, once they feel completely ready, then they will take action. They convince themselves that clarity is something that must come first, that they must be absolutely certain before they make a move. But clarity is not something that simply appears out of nowhere. It is not something that can be found by thinking, analyzing, or waiting. Clarity is something that is created through action. Without movement, without decisions, without action, clarity remains nothing more than a concept. The biggest mistake people make is thinking that they need to have everything figured out before they begin. They wait for the full picture, the complete roadmap, the guarantee that everything will work out. But life does not work that way. The reality is that no one ever has complete clarity before they start. The greatest achievements, the biggest transformations, the most life-changing decisions were all made by people who did not have all the answers. They simply took the first step. They moved forward even when they were uncertain. They acted in faith, trusting that the next step would reveal itself along the way. There is a myth that successful people have some kind of special knowledge or insight that others do not. But the truth is, they are not waiting for clarity, they are creating it. They understand that clarity comes from engagement, from experience, from doing. They take action, they learn, they adjust, and they keep moving. They do not let fear of making the wrong choice keep them from making any choice at all. They know that even a wrong step is better than standing still because movement creates momentum, and momentum creates opportunities. Overthinking is the enemy of clarity. The more time spent analyzing and second-guessing, the more the mind fills with doubts and fears. The brain is wired to seek safety, to avoid risk, to stay in familiar territory. When faced with uncertainty, it will always try to pull back, to stay in the comfort zone, to wait for more information. But the comfort zone is where dreams go to die. It is the place where potential is wasted, where opportunities pass by unnoticed, where people settle for less than they're capable of. The longer someone waits, the harder it becomes to move. The longer they hesitate, the more fear takes over. The longer they delay, the more they convince themselves that they are not ready. Action breaks the cycle of overthinking. The moment a decision is made, the moment the first step is taken, everything shifts. The mind begins to focus on solutions instead of problems. The path starts to become clearer. Doors that were invisible before suddenly begin to open. The fear that once seemed paralyzing begins to fade because fear cannot survive in motion. Fear thrives in stagnation, in indecision, in hesitation. But the moment action is taken, fear loses its power. Most people believe that clarity leads to confidence. They think that once they are clear on what to do, they will feel confident enough to do it. But the reality is the opposite. Confidence comes from action, not clarity. Confidence is built through experience, through taking risks, through facing challenges and overcoming them. No one starts with confidence. It is something that is developed along the way. The only way to build confidence is to take action, despite the doubt, despite the fear, despite the uncertainty. The more action taken, the more confidence grows and the more clarity follows. Perfectionism is another illusion that keeps people from taking action. They tell themselves they cannot start until everything is perfect, until they have every detail planned out, until they are sure they will not fail. But perfection is an illusion, a trap that keeps people stuck in inaction. The pursuit of perfection leads to endless preparation, endless planning, endless hesitation. The truth is, nothing will ever be perfect. There will always be unknowns. There will always be challenges. There will always be adjustments that need to be made along the way. Those who achieve success are not the ones who waited until everything was perfect. They're the ones who started before they felt ready. Waiting for clarity is often just an excuse for avoiding discomfort. Taking action means stepping into the unknown, facing the possibility of failure, dealing with uncertainty. It is uncomfortable, and that is why so many people avoid it. But growth only happens in discomfort. Everything that is worthwhile requires stepping outside of what is familiar, stretching beyond what feels safe. The first step is always the hardest, but it is also the most important. Once that step is taken, the next one becomes easier, and then the next, and then the next. Clarity is often something that is revealed step by step, not all at once. It is like walking through fog. At first, only a few feet ahead can be seen. But as movement continues, more of the path becomes visible. The same is true in life. The first step reveals the next step, and then the next. But none of that can happen without movement. Those who wait for the entire path to be visible before they begin will never move forward. Those who are willing to take the first step, even when they cannot see the whole way, will always make progress. Action does not have to be big to be meaningful. Sometimes the smallest step in the right direction can create massive change. It can be making a phone call, sending an email, starting a conversation, writing down a plan. It can be waking up an hour earlier, saying yes to an opportunity, deciding to let go of a limiting belief. The size of the step does not matter. What matters is that movement begins. Small actions taken consistently lead to massive results over time. People often look at those who have achieved success and assume they had everything figured out from the start. But if they were to hear their stories, they would realize that most of them began with uncertainty, with fear, with doubt. They did not wait for clarity. They created it through action. They made mistakes. They faced failures, they had setbacks, but they kept moving, they kept learning, they kept adjusting, and because they took action, they found clarity along the way. Every major breakthrough, every significant success, every life-changing transformation begins with a decision to take action. It is not about knowing every detail in advance. It is about trusting that clarity will come through movement. It's about having the courage to step forward even when the path is not fully visible. It is about choosing progress over perfection, movement over hesitation, action over fear. Faith and clarity go hand in hand. Trust that the path will unfold as you move forward. Faith is the foundation of clarity. Without faith, doubt takes over, and when doubt is in control, clarity becomes impossible. Most people want certainty before they act. They want to know the outcome before they commit. They want guarantees that everything will work out exactly as they envision. But life does not operate that way. There are no guarantees, no perfect roadmaps, no foolproof plans. Those who wait for absolute certainty before taking action will stay stuck in the same place, trapped by their own hesitation. Faith is the ability to move forward despite not having all the answers. It is the belief that even when the entire path is not visible, each step taken will reveal the next. Faith does not mean blind optimism. It does not mean ignoring challenges or pretending that difficulties do not exist. Faith is not about wishful thinking. It is about trust. Trust in oneself, trust in the process, trust in something greater than oneself. It is about knowing that even in uncertainty, even in difficulty, there is a way forward. People who lack faith often find themselves paralyzed by indecision. They overanalyze, they second guess, they wait for a perfect moment that never comes. But those who operate from faith understand that clarity is not something that appears fully formed. It is something that develops through movement, through experience, through commitment. When faith is present, obstacles are no longer seen as roadblocks, but as lessons. Challenges are no longer viewed as signs to stop, but as opportunities to grow. Faith shifts the perspective from fear to possibility. It allows one to see beyond temporary setbacks, beyond immediate struggles, beyond the discomfort of the unknown. People who lack faith tend to give up when things become difficult. They take challenges as evidence that they are on the wrong path, that they are not capable, that they should turn back. But those who operate with faith understand that every obstacle carries a lesson, every setback is temporary, and every challenge is an opportunity to build resilience. Clarity is rarely given all at once. It comes in pieces, like a puzzle that is put together one step at a time. Most people want the entire picture before they take the first step. They want to know every detail before they commit, but true clarity only emerges when action is taken. The next step does not become clear until the first step is taken. The greatest journeys, the biggest transformations, the most life-changing decisions all require faith in the unknown. They require moving forward even when the destination is not fully visible. They require trusting that as movement happens, as decisions are made, as lessons are learned, the path will reveal itself. Many people struggle with faith because they have been conditioned to seek control. They have been taught that certainty equals safety, that planning eliminates risk, that knowing the outcome in advance is the only way to make a decision. But life is unpredictable. No amount of planning can remove all uncertainty. No amount of preparation can eliminate every risk. Those who insist on control end up stuck in analysis paralysis, constantly questioning, constantly preparing, constantly hesitating. But those who embrace faith understand that certainty is not a prerequisite for action. They know that progress is made by moving forward, adjusting along the way, and trusting that they will find their way. Fear and faith cannot coexist. When fear is in control, faith is pushed aside. Fear convinces people to stay where they are, to avoid risk, to choose comfort over growth. Fear magnifies worst-case scenarios, highlights potential failures, and focuses on everything that could go wrong. But faith shifts the focus. Faith looks at what is possible. Faith sees challenges as temporary. Faith trusts that even in failure, there is growth, there is wisdom, there is a way forward. Fear keeps people small, but faith expands their potential. Fear keeps people stuck, but faith moves them forward. Fear limits possibilities, but faith opens doors that were previously unseen. One of the biggest obstacles to clarity is the need for external validation. Many people seek confirmation from others before they make a decision. They look for approval, for reassurance, for someone else to tell them they are making the right choice. But clarity is an internal process. It does not come from external opinions. It does not come from the approval of others. It comes from within, from trusting one's own intuition, one's own wisdom, one's own sense of purpose. Those who rely on external validation often find themselves confused and conflicted. They receive different opinions, different perspectives, different pieces of advice. And instead of finding clarity, they end up more uncertain than before. But those who operate from faith trust their own judgment. They listen to their intuition. They make decisions based on their own inner knowing, not on the expectations of others. Faith allows for flexibility. Many people resist making decisions because they are afraid of making the wrong choice. They believe that one wrong move will ruin everything. But faith understands that there is no single right path. There are many paths, many opportunities, many ways forward. The key is to commit fully to the path that is chosen, knowing that adjustments can always be made along the way. Those who wait for the perfect choice before acting often find themselves stuck in indecision. But those who act with faith understand that even if they make a mistake, they have the ability to course correct. They trust that every experience, even the ones that do not go as planned, will bring valuable lessons. Trusting the process means embracing uncertainty. It means accepting that not everything will go as expected. It means knowing that detours, challenges, and unexpected changes are part of the journey. Many people struggle with uncertainty because they see it as a threat. They believe that if they do not know the exact outcome, they are at risk. But faith transforms uncertainty into possibility. It shifts the perspective from what if it goes wrong to what if it goes right. It replaces worry with excitement, hesitation with confidence, doubt with trust. The most successful people in the world all have one thing in common. They move forward even when they do not have all the answers. They take risks. They make bold decisions. They trust their ability to figure things out along the way. They do not wait for clarity before they act. They act and clarity follows. They do not demand certainty before making a move. They move, and certainty is built through experience. They understand that the only way to gain clarity is to take action, to engage with life, to trust that as they walk forward, the path will continue to unfold. Faith requires letting go of the need to have everything figured out. It requires surrendering the illusion of control. It requires trusting that even when the way is unclear, the answers will come at the right time. Those who operate from faith do not see uncertainty as a barrier. They see it as an invitation to step into the unknown with confidence. They do not see challenges as roadblocks. They see them as stepping stones to growth. They do not wait for everything to be perfect. They take action knowing that clarity will emerge as they move forward. Clarity thrives in alignment with your true self. Stop seeking approval and start honoring your inner voice. Many people go through life disconnected from their true selves, chasing goals and dreams that are not truly their own. They make decisions based on what others expect, what society deems successful, or what they believe will gain them approval. In doing so, they lose touch with their inner voice, the part of them that knows who they really are and what they truly want. This disconnection creates confusion, frustration, and a lack of clarity. When people try to live up to the expectations of others instead of honoring their own truth, they find themselves on paths that do not feel fulfilling, no matter how much they achieve. Seeking approval from others is a deeply ingrained habit for many. From a young age, people are conditioned to look outside themselves for validation. They are taught to seek praise, to fit in, to meet external standards of success. Over time, this creates a pattern of living for others rather than for oneself. They become more concerned with how they are perceived than with how they feel. They prioritize the opinions of others over their own desires. They choose careers, relationships, and lifestyles based on what they think will be accepted rather than what aligns with their true nature. This constant seeking of approval silences their inner voice and leaves them feeling lost and disconnected. True clarity cannot exist without alignment. Alignment means living in harmony with your authentic self, your values, your passions, your purpose. When you are aligned, decisions become easier because they flow naturally from who you are. You do not need to overthink or second guess because you are not trying to fit into a mold that is not meant for you. You are not worried about what others will think because you are acting in accordance with your own truth. When you are out of alignment, every decision feels like a struggle. You feel torn between what you want and what you think you should do. You feel weighed down by doubt, insecurity, and the fear of judgment. Listening to your inner voice requires courage. It means tuning out the noise of the world, the opinions of others, and the pressures of society. It means taking the time to reflect on what truly matters to you, what lights you up, what feels right in your heart. Your inner voice is always there, but it often gets drowned out by the external demands of life. To hear it, you must create space for stillness, for introspection, for self-discovery. This is not always easy. It may mean disappointing others, challenging the status quo, or making choices that others do not understand. But the alternative, living a life that is not your own, is far more painful. One of the biggest obstacles to alignment is fear of rejection. People fear that if they follow their own path, they will be judged, criticized, or ostracized. They worry about losing relationships, opportunities, or status. But living for the approval of others comes at a cost. It requires you to sacrifice your own authenticity, to suppress your own desires, to live a life that does not truly fulfill you. The truth is, no matter how much you try to please others, you cannot control their opinions. People will judge you no matter what you do. The only approval that truly matters is your own. When you stop seeking approval and start honoring your inner voice, everything changes. You begin to make decisions that feel right for you, not because they are what others expect, but because they align with who you are. You stop comparing yourself to others and start focusing on your own journey. You let go of the need to fit in and embrace your uniqueness. This shift creates a sense of freedom, of empowerment, of clarity. You no longer feel the need to explain yourself or justify your choices because you are at peace with who you are and what you stand for. Alignment also requires self-awareness. To live in alignment with your true self, you must first know who you are. This means examining your values, your passions, your strengths, and your dreams. It means being honest about what brings you joy, what drains your energy, what feels authentic, and what feels forced. Self-awareness is not about labeling yourself or putting yourself in a box. It is about understanding yourself on a deep level so that you can make choices that reflect your truth. Without self-awareness, it is easy to get caught up in the expectations of others and lose sight of what truly matters to you. Another key to alignment is self-acceptance. Many people struggle with clarity because they are at war with themselves. They criticize themselves for not being good enough, smart enough, or successful enough. They try to change who they are to fit a certain image or standard. But clarity cannot thrive in self-rejection. It requires you to embrace yourself fully, including your imperfections, your quirks, and your uniqueness. Self-acceptance is not about settling or giving up on growth. It is about recognizing that you are worthy and whole just as you are. When you accept yourself, you stop trying to be someone you are not, and this creates space for clarity to emerge. Living in alignment with your true self also means letting go of comparison. Comparison is one of the biggest barriers to clarity because it shifts your focus away from your own path and onto the paths of others. It creates feelings of inadequacy, envy, and self-doubt. It makes you question whether you are doing enough, achieving enough, or being enough. But everyone's journey is unique, and what works for someone else may not work for you. When you compare yourself to others, you lose sight of your own values, your own goals, your own truth. Clarity comes when you stop looking outward and start looking inward. Trust is another essential element of alignment. Trusting yourself means believing that you are capable of making the right decisions, even when the path is uncertain. It means knowing that your inner voice will guide you even when it contradicts the opinions of others. Trusting yourself requires you to let go of the need for external validation and rely on your own intuition and wisdom. This trust is built over time through practice and experience. The more you listen to your inner voice and act in alignment with it, the stronger your trust becomes. When you are aligned with your true self, life begins to flow. Challenges still arise, but they do not feel as overwhelming because you are grounded in your authenticity. Opportunities come more easily because you are no longer resisting or forcing things that do not fit. Relationships become more fulfilling because you are showing up as your true self and attracting people who resonate with your authenticity. Decisions become less stressful because you are no longer trying to please everyone or live up to unrealistic expectations. Alignment is not a one-time achievement. It is an ongoing process. As you grow and evolve, your values, passions, and goals may change. Staying aligned requires you to continuously check in with yourself, to reassess what feels true and authentic, and to adjust your course as needed. It requires you to stay connected to your inner voice even when life gets busy or challenging. This commitment to alignment is what allows clarity to flourish, not as a fleeting moment, but as a way of life.